Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. It's Tuesday, almost Wednesday, wishing my week away. And I'm joined by Lawrence Conley and Ian Conroy. We may also have an appearance from Liam Carrigan at some point as well. And we're here for the next hour to talk all things Celtic. Let's get the comments in from the viewers as well today, because there's a lot happening. We've got to talk about the aftermath of Dundee, how that sets us up for Thursday, what we need to do to change. And that word change, Lawrence, is going to be coming into the conversation, not only in relation to the park and the team, but also as a football club and how we need to change. I've got my own theory on that one. First off the bat, Lawrence, the weekend's game against Dundee, we've seen it coming, didn't we?
Mile off. Lucky it'll only be 2. You know, Maeda looks like our only natural finisher at the moment. We struggle to score goals from open play. I think we're the 5th joint top scorer in the SPL at the moment. You know, we've sold all our goal scorers. Doesn't look like we've replaced them with people that can score at the same rate. The one guy that seems to score from open play, you know, Maeda, that is injured at the moment. He wants away. He'll probably leave in January. It's not looking good. We need to we look toothless by and large. You know, 23 shots, 3 in target. Was the keeper troubled? Probably not. And I think teams are waking up to that. You know, we don't have that killer instinct. We don't have the players that know how to put the ball in the back of the net. You know, Ian Acsom, we spoke about him. His fitness is coming on. He moves well. Technically, he's good with the ball. Another good chance in the 6-yard box. Heavy touch. Chance is gone. He's had a lot of good chances and not a lot of goals from open play. And I think it probably reflects, you know, that's why we're the 5th top scorers in the league. You know, that's why we're 2nd. We're not a dangerous team anymore.
No, hard to argue with that, Lawrence. It really is. And these are the big things that when you're talking about Celtic on a daily basis for an hour, not only do you come up with your observations like you clearly have there, Lawrence, you also ask the question, how do we change it? How do we fix it? And as fans, obviously, it's limited as to what we can do beyond the Celtic fans collective and movements and actions like that. But in terms of the actual team itself, Liam, I look at it, maybe I'm an eternal optimist. I look at it and say, yeah, we have lost a lot of goals, but how do we overcome that with the personnel that we've got? You know, I look at the team, the squad, the manager, and I think to myself, surely we can find a way. Surely, you know, with a mix of changing the personnel, the shape, the style, we can beat Dundee. Is that too much to ask, Liam? Surely these highly paid individuals who are at Celtic at the moment, regardless of where they're going to be in January, or the manager himself drawing the highest wage that a Celtic manager has ever been paid in the history of the football club, can figure this out. We can give you our observations and our ideas in relation to this, but surely there's a way that they can figure this out, Liam, even though all the goals and everything have gone, and we've listed them. We've listed all the goals that have left Celtic Park, right? But you know what? We can't do anything to change that until January. So surely we can find a way. Lawrence points out, Ian Atchew's, he's a first choice striker, right? Are we playing to his strengths?
No, I mean, here's the thing, right? One, we don't have a reliable right wing option that will give us a full 90 minutes. James Forrest can play there, but he's not up to a full game anymore every week. That's not an option, right? Yang, I want to see the guy succeed, but it's just not happening for him, right? And so then you're left the option of playing somebody out of position, because that's your only 2 right-wing options. Meanwhile, we've got 4 strikers, but we can only play 1 of them. We've got 2 right-backs, 2 left-backs, who are all capable of playing as wing-backs. Why have we not switched to a 3-5-2? It is just so blindingly obvious.
You are lining me up. You're lining me up for my next point, Liam. And yeah. We didn't even practice this before we came on live.
If you don't have the players for the formation that you want to play, you play the best formation with the players that you've got. And the best formation with what we've got right now is a 3-5-2. It's so obvious.
Right. Well, you see, yesterday, Liam, I don't know if you had time. You're a busy man, you know, keeping the fires burning on the Acsom blog. Link underneath this video, incidentally, ladies and gents. But if you did watch yesterday, I gave you my take on the typical Brendan Rodgers shape. So how all I'm looking at yesterday is the personnel, Liam, and how we can maximise the team for what it is in the shape that Brendan favours. But a good friend of mine who's an ex-player and a coach as well, he came back to me with a 3-5-2 option. And I love this, Liam, because it is all about, this is me, my view as a fan who watches every kick of the ball. This is my view yesterday. And then someone who watches Acsom, a good pal of mine, comes to me with a wee bit more specialist knowledge. You've got to concede, Liam, if someone's played the game at a level, coached the game at various levels, and he says, well, actually, I've looked at the squad, and this is how I would shape up. And he agrees with you, Liam. He agrees with a 3-5-2 formation. Now, here's some of the points that he made, because I'm all about being a sponge when it comes to specialist knowledge. Iheanacho, he rates him, but he doesn't think that he can cover the ground. Now, I've seen a lot of Iheanacho dropping deep at the weekend, for example, trying to make things happen. I think it's very unnatural to him. And I do like to see my centre forward dropping deep and pulling defenders out, Liam. But what I noticed from Dundee, Presley being a centre half probably bought it, what I noticed from Dundee is they didn't follow him. So Iheanacho was dropping to the centre circle and the Dundee defenders just stayed deep. They didn't follow him. And the whole purpose of him running towards the ball, if you like, is to draw them out and leave the pockets of space. Dundee sussed it out before the game. It wasn't something they did in match. So Iheanacho can't run, basically, is the message I'm getting here. And the best thing to do is to utilise him as a front two, which the 3-5-2 would allow. He needs a runner. And obviously, we've got one of the best runners in European football, Dyson Maeda. When's he back, by the way, guys? Lawrence, you mentioned he was injured at the moment. Is he?
I've not heard the timeline of him. I know Ali Johnson's back.
He's training.
I'll try and find out. Yeah.
Anything from Japan, Liam, when Maeda's back?
They said over here that it's not a serious injury. They expected 1 to 2 weeks, but that was as of last Wednesday. So could well be back by the weekend.
So Iheanacho and Maeda, right? I mean, that for me makes sense. And Maeda needs to get out of this kind of rut that he's in as well. And it might assist him playing with two up top. He does all the running, basically. Iheanacho feeds from the scraps. Because, Lawrence, I get what you mean there. There were chances at the weekend. But we have seen it from him, Lawrence, to be fair to him. We have seen, particularly the European goal that he scored, where it was one touch, sold the two defenders in a way. So he has got that.
If that counts, that's huge for him, You take a lot of confidence.
I'm talking about the one that did count. The one against Red Star. Yeah.
Look. You take a lot of confidence, but he seems to be a striker. Needs a lot of chances in open play. But look, part of the problems, not just the formation, it's the personnel. Brendan's selecting. Schmeichel looks far from fit. God knows why Sinisterra got dropped for a cup final. Arguably cost us a treble. Why has he kept his jersey? I don't know. Persisting with KT over Marcello, the team's devoid of energy. KT just doesn't have that energy just now. Look, we all want him to get back to the old KT. Well, 11, 12 games into the season, I don't see him getting better. Marcello's got more energy. Young Donovan, breath of fresh air.
Marcello's
up the field, playing the ball forward.
Marcello as well, Lawrence. Marcello is less predictable, which is a good thing. I'm using that as a positive. You don't know what he's going to do.
Right. And you've got Donovan, another one, was giving us energy.
Yep.
So a team devoid of energy, we're like, actually, two guys that's giving us it, pull them out, put into them, won't give us it. And I don't know what Brendan's saying. And look, we all want KT to get back to his best, but it's clearly not happening, and I don't think we're helping him. And we're not helping ourselves get 3 points, believe him through. With him, I thought in a tight park, we could have went 4-4-2 against Dundee. You've got Engels, 11 million quid. That's apparently a really good right midfielder. Play him at right midfield. You've got a player to do it. Whatever position you want to change. You could go 3-5-2, but surely 2 up front when we're struggling for goals. I'm not seeing enough of Shin to make much of a judgment of him, but...
Can I pick up on Shin for a moment then, Lawrence? Right? Because the point that was being made there was to give Iheanacho a runner. And obviously, I also think it would benefit Maeda as well. Just say to Maeda, look, if you get goals, great, but you're the runner, he's the finisher. Let's try and get a partnership together. Now, people might argue that Johnny Kenny's that type of player as well. I'm sorry, guys, he's not got the quality, right? So he's someone, for me, who drops out the squad entirely. I think we need to have a look at Shin, Liam. And I don't mean as a first pick here, by the way. I mean as a backup. If you're playing 2 up top, let's say Maeda misses, well, we can't talk about Thursday night. Shin's not in the squad. Let's say he misses a game against Hearts and we decide to play 2 up top. You need a runner. Shin's that man, is he not?
Yep. And both Shin and Dyson, prior to coming to Celtic, had their best goal-scoring seasons playing as part of a front two. Dyson at Yokohama, Shin at Kawasaki last season. Both of them had a slightly bigger Brazilian striker playing off of them. There was two. I can't remember the players' names off the top of my head, but they both had Brazilian strikers playing alongside them, who were sort of the Sutton to their Larson, if you like. I mean, they're not that good, but in terms of like one was the big physical presence and one was the flair player, you know. And that's kind of where I think Iheanacho could form a partnership with either of the two of them.
I'd like to see it. And again, Liam, right? I want you to expand on this because you've written about it. The fact that the two players were brought in from Japan have not featured prominently. You know, we've had one appearance from Inamura and then fleeting appearances from Shin Yamada. This is now putting off Japanese players, isn't it?
Well, I mentioned this on Celtic Down Under yesterday. I was talking to Jared and the boys about it. There was a player lined up. Now, I don't know how far along the deal was, but I know discussions were at an advanced stage. Had Dyson gone, we would have signed Taisei Miyashiro from Vissel Kobe to be his replacement. Very similar type of player, can play on the wing, very pacey, goal scorer, great player. And the word in August was, oh, well, Celtic might go back in for him in January because the Japanese season will be finished by then.
Yeah.
No, not happening. No, it's not going to happen now. All talk of that has cooled because, sorry, can I just pick up on something in the comments? If I know nothing, then why am I even talking here? I don't get that. What's the point?
I'll pick up on the comment for Drew. Drew, the thing that Liam has is he has access to what's happening in Japan. So he has access to the media over there. He can speak Japanese, and it's always great to get his take. Now, you might disagree with his take on a player or his opinion on a player. We all disagree on in various matters when it comes to opinions. But as a specialist knowledge, Liam's right in the heart of it, and to get a sense of how it's actually affecting Celtic's reputation over there, I find critical. I actually do. I find it critical because we had, out of nowhere, Liam, under Ange Postecoglou, out of nowhere, created a buzz about bringing Japanese players over. Two-way street, by the way. So other guys would have thought, right, I can get to Europe via the Celtic vehicle. And it concerns me that very quickly that has the vehicle has crashed, to use a vehicular analogy.
That's the thing, though. It's like we are not in a position now where we can afford to ignore potentially cheaper markets for players. And Japan is a market that hasn't been fully tapped up by the top 5 leagues yet. It's getting that way. There's a lot more players going to Germany. There's a lot more players. This summer there was Kota Takai, who I said Celtic should have went for in January. Ended up going to Spurs, Japanese centre half, great player, and you'll see more of him as time goes on. But it's a market that we really cannot afford to close off, and we are closing it off right now. Because the thing is, chances are Brendan Rodgers is not going to be here in 7 or 8 months' time, possibly sooner, the way things are going, right? And he seems to be the one that is reluctant to play the two Japanese players for whatever reason. Also, it was under Rodgers that Kyogo first lost his form and then wanted a transfer. Iwata, yep. Another one who was, I think, sold too soon. To me, there was a natural...
we're talking about a number 6. We need a number 6.
Aye, there was a natural replacement there ready and waiting. And it
one that doesn't sit right on top of the centre halves.
Yeah.
Exactly. Iwata was a great player, both feet. Could wear and wear a goal. I think he's doing great for Birmingham, isn't he?
He is. But
listen,
to pick up on Liam's point, no, Lawrence, it is a situation with Brendan versus personnel. Now, I get it sometimes if you inherit a player. I get it. You don't fancy him. The last manager did, you don't. But when it's players that have come in under your watch, that's more of a concern, isn't it?
It's more a concern that Brennan's going, I'm a Ferrari driver. This is a Honda Civic, so I'm not driving it. That appears to be what's happening. Brendan, you're paid to drive whatever car is there to the best of your abilities. You know what I mean? Don't try and drive a Honda Civic like a Ferrari then. Maybe change. You know, right now you're showing that you can't even drive a Honda Civic. You know, that there's players that are coming in purely in their name, KT, Schmeichel. How they're keeping their place in the team, God only knows. You can see that we don't have a right winger. You can see Yang's not to standard, and James, as Liam said, will only give you 90 minutes. Why are we playing a formation that requires us to have a right winger when we don't have one?
Yeah.
You know, these shouldn't be hard decisions. You're going, right, I get that's your preferred way of playing, Brendan. Problem is, we don't have a right winger.
I get that. I
We're not
totally get
scoring
it.
goals. Maybe have two forwards on. But forget about Europe this season. We're now 5 points behind Hearts. We're the 5th top scorer in the league.
Yep.
The amount of goals we're scoring is paltry compared to a normal Celtic team, compared to a normal Brendan team. And he needs to do something to arrest the decline. And quite simply going 4-3-3, 4-3-3, Schmeichel, KT, Tony. Like, mate, how are you picking those three players? What must the rest of the players be? What must Marcelli be looking at, seeing KT struggling to go up and down the park going, how's he getting a game in front of me? Donovan, a young lad, we talk about developing players. The guy came in. He looked great for us, brought a bit of energy. First chance of dropping him, he's dropped. You're like, right, where are we at developing players here? Where are we the confidence? Remember he done it to Ida. Ida scored, you know, Kyogo leaves, Ida scores Champions League, scores against Rangers. You're thinking this is his time to kick on. Before you know it, he's dropped and made as the striker. Then we end up selling Ida for a loss. Although I believe Celtic leaked, if you take amortisation into account, it's actually a profit because we had a bit of time out. No, we lost money. We sold him for less than we bought him for. You know, it's Brendan. I've no doubt will see the 3 years out unless he's sacked. Whether we want him to, if he's going to be this stubborn and just refuse to adapt. You know, if he's truly an elite manager, surely he can adapt.
Well, see that
what he has to suit the situation.
The inability to adapt could cost any manager their job. But there's also a thing. I agree with you in relation to play the team based on the players that you've got at your disposal, Lawrence. But see if you are playing with a right winger, right, and Yang isn't the man. Yang's played his last game for me. I honestly, I don't want to see him again. He's come back and he's done this before. That performance against Dundee as a team was absolutely woeful, but he was the worst player on the park for me. And it's nothing personal. He's not good enough to play for Celtic. We need people who are going to actually create something, regardless of how many times they're on a defender and fail.
Young, he was going to go to Birmingham. He was one of those players that we get the club to it. They buy them, try them for a season or so. They don't work, move them on. We'd have made a bit of money on him. But we've even failed to do that. So now it looks like we're going to be stuck with a player who's clearly not good enough with no replacement at right wing. And it looks like Brendan's just wedded to playing this. Until we're two behind, then we'll change it.
He can't. It just can't, though.
Why do you wait till we're two behind? It was
can't revert to this. Lawrence, you can't revert to that after the weekend. I mean, all bets are off now, right? You can't continue as you have been, because if you do, we're losing this league. It's that simple. I also think that if you're going to spend the gutsy £11 million on two wingers, and one of them isn't a natural right winger, one of them still should be able to play right wing. Quinny and I spoke about this yesterday with regards to Tunekti playing there for Tunisia on the right wing. Yet we are loath to play him out in the right wing. If you want to play with two wingers, play him on the right wing and play Balikwisha down the left. Let him build on that little glimpse that we got against Motherwell. I'm going to go back to the 3-5-2 that was given to me, and I'm going to run through that just to see if anyone, if it resonates with anyone actually in the comments section. So I'm going to run through the entirety of that team. That's Lawrence. Is that you getting your scouting reports right now, just to see if
my head is not far away, mate.
Oh, good. I knew it. Aye, all your contacts. So if you're playing two up front, obviously Ian Atchell and Maida would be your preferred two, but the comment around Shin, I tend to agree with it. Listen, he might come in, play half a dozen games, and we don't rate him. But I don't think we can make that call at the moment because we've not seen enough.
There's only Liam that's really seen him. I mean, from what we have seen, I thought one's about a bit, tries. But Liam's actually got, a big data set. He's seen him settled in a team and seen him scoring goals.
That's the specialism that we were talking about 10 minutes ago, Lawrence, when it comes to Liam getting a hard time in the comments. This is a player who knew all about Maeda and knew all about Hatate and knew all about all these guys before we signed them. So you've got that specialist knowledge. I'm hoping to bring Ian back into the fold as well, by the way. But on the KT thing, again, I spoke about this yesterday. I'd already decided that his days were numbered as a left back, someone who you really need to be bombing up and down that wing. And I would definitely bring him into the central defensive area. If you're playing a 3, that's quite a natural move as well, Liam, isn't it? Just to bring Kieran Tierney back into the central defensive area.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that's a way that you can accommodate, again, working to the best of the personnel that you've got. Play Tierney as the left side of a back 3. And then you've got the option of Sarachi left wing back. We know that Johnson can do the right wing back when he's fit. I've seen him do it for Canada. And that way, KT is still getting a game. And we're also getting the best out of Sarachi, who's a guy that we're paying quite a few quid to get in for at least this season. Hopefully longer, because I think the guy looks like a player. And then you've also got the option of, God forbid, putting Inamura on the bench as your backup left back.
Listen, by the way, it's another name that I think, I listed them yesterday, guys, that we simply have not given a fair crack of the whip to, and he's one of them, let's be honest. Again, he might be rotten, he might not be good enough, but we don't know yet. Sorry, Lawrence.
See him at centre-half, I don't know what KT's got. If we're playing 3, I don't know how he's in front of Trusty. KT looks devoid of energy just
simply
now.
Because Trusty's not been playing, Lawrence.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? When you see KT in the park, he looks devoid of energy and strength. He's nowhere near what we expected to be getting back. I don't know why he went away with Scotland. More games doesn't seem to be helping him. He'll look worse, if anything, for being away with Scotland.
I think he needs to be selfish with that.
Yeah, I think it should have been. But if I went to 3, I would be going probably Murray, Carter-Vickers and Trusty.
What's Murray done? No, genuine question and no dig. I'd love to see a young player coming through. What's he done to get a start?
See the quick switch, those diagonal balls he was hitting to the wingers. You remember against Livingston? Refreshing, rather than passing it to the number. Obviously, Callum wasn't.
I want that, Lawrence. That's what I want from a defender.
Callum wasn't on the park at the time because the centre halves normally just give it to Callum 5 yards away. But the defender was turning it and hitting a winger. You've got the other team turned, they're not ready for you. Bring it in. We need that range of passing. Then you've got both him and Scales that can bring a ball out and pass. Carter-Vickers is absolutely solid. I don't think he does too much with the ball when he comes out, but he's got 2 centre halves he can play it to that can bring it forward. And Johnston and Marcello, wingers or wing backs that'll push high up, give you something different, can go up and down, a bit of energy with both of them. It's got to be. I mean, I thought probably Livingston, and I know it was only Livingston, we looked fresher against that team. Maybe because Calmac got a rest. Maybe because Murray was in, we're moving the ball quicker. But Brendan just seems wedded to 4-3-3, doesn't he? Just no matter what,
plays.
Favourites. Regardless of form, we'll pick my favourites. That's just against. There's an argument why when we said that his last game, good game. If you're Engels and Bernardo's sitting there going, what's that guy doing on the part that's keeping me off it?
Yeah, absolutely. I get all that, Lawrence. I just want the people who can make those passes to be playing centre half. Whoever is the best at making those passes. Now, if Dane Murray's better than Simpson Pusey, let's just say, and we don't know because we've not seen him, then he plays ahead of him. But we need, because obviously the weekend there was really, really poor, but generally speaking, over the domestic season, we're in possession, we're dominating the ball, we keep hearing all this, right? And we're constantly on the attack, right? I mean, you just take the Hibs game, for example, they're nothing each game, right? We didn't have the cutting edge. But what you want is you want your defenders to be playing the ball quick. You don't want the most passes in the team to be between Kasper Schmeichel and your 2 centre-halves. If they get the ball, don't give it to Calmac so you get it back, because you're getting 3 or 4 touches of the ball when you should have 1. And that 1 should result in that pass you're talking about, Lawrence. And if Murray's better than any of the other guys we've mentioned at doing that, then Murray plays for me. But I don't know if he's better than Simpson Pusey because we've not seen him.
That's another player, comes up from Man City, big reputation. There's rumours of an attitude problem, but we've never seen him on a football park to judge him. But I tell you what, it's got to be better than, Carter-Vickers to Scales to Callum to Carter-Vickers to Scales to Callum. Yeah,
easy to play against. It's becoming easier to play against as well, and that's a big concern. I'm really keen to see if we can bring Ian Conroy. You're not just sitting there watching this, Ian. I want to. We're not going to do a Simpson Pusey on you. We want you to get involved here, right? So, in relation to it, I know you're someone who has been a student of Brendan Rodgers, if you like. Is he willing to make the kind of changes we're talking about?
Hello everyone. Sorry about the.
Sorry, mate. It sounds as though you're in, I don't know, a dodgy area, vault somewhere. Maybe it's
Celtic management team echo chamber.
It's the echo chamber. That's what it is.
Yeah,
I was thinking more Scrooge McDuck, the vault that you go for a wee dip. I want to finish off this because actually, Lawrence, our coach that gave me his take on it yesterday or this morning would have played Murray, so he agrees with you. He absolutely agrees with you. Carter Vickers would be central to the back three, and Kieran Tierney would actually be playing in there. But I take your point on Trusty. I spoke about Trusty yesterday. I'm resting Scales now. I think Scales and Ralston, and I take your point on Hattati. I think there are guys that are just getting game time. They need to come out the fold. So Kieran Tierney, Carter Vickers, and Murray. In respect of the midfield, this is the interesting one because we talk about if you're playing with, let's say, your three central midfield players, and you've mentioned Rio Hattati there, Lawrence. I agree, he's not a standout performance for us this season, right? But is the shape of the midfield, I'm going to throw this one over to Liam, is the shape of the midfield and his role within that midfield affecting his game? Because he is having a bit of a mediocre to poor season so far.
I think, yes, the shape of the team's affecting him, but also the fact that the manager has clearly got certain players that he just will not drop no matter what. And that message gets through both to the players who are on the pitch who do not have that push from the squad to get better in order to retain their place because they know they're going to keep their place anyway. And then you've got players on the bench who are like, how many times does this guy have to mess up before I'm going to get a chance? It's a frustrating thing. Now, just to kind of go along with that a wee bit, I'm going to put a question to the two of you that I've been thinking about. With the formation and the strategy at the moment that we're not happy with, is this the fact that Brendan Rodgers simply does not want to change because he's too stubborn? Or is it that he can't? Is he being found out now like he was at about this time, the last time he was here?
I would say he definitely can because he changed it 2-0 down. So he knows how to change it and what formation to put on. Why he waits to 2-0? Don't know. I think there's definitely a huge stubborn streak in him. And part of it is, as much as he's, I think, happy with the board, the act has won or whatever it was he was saying, there's no disharmony. I don't believe it. I think part of that is he's in the middle of a fight with them and he's going to prove them how wrong they've been, the way they've treated him. They're putting out a team that's just not working.
See if that's the case, Lawrence, from any manager, just go. You cannot be making these kind of points through the selection process of your team to try and get results and put Celtic at risk. See, the minute you start putting Celtic at risk, the Celtic result at risk, just go. Because I'm not saying that is the case, by the way, Lawrence, but see if it was, and it was all to do with internal wrangling and trying to prove a point. I'm not playing these guys because I never signed them off. This isn't the standard of player that I want. See if that is your attitude, then you should not be the manager of Celtic.
So I think both sides have definitely put Celtic in danger. Listen, I don't care about Europe now. This is about catching hearts or staying in touch until January. Goodness knows if I know January's a difficult. What's the excuses? January's a difficult window. We tried, or didn't want to join us because we weren't in Europe. Whatever excuses have got lined up, but it's about staying in touch with Hearts to January now.
See, the problem with that, Lawrence, we've picked a Europa League squad, which is the same squad that we're playing domestically. So you can't even go into Europa League games with the thought process of playing the half dozen guys that you signed in the summer that aren't going to look at.
Shin's not in there. Yeah, Shin's not in there, so he would only come in for league games, which might be good, Well, we're trying to get him up to speed. I don't know how long it'll take to go up to speed, but for Europa League games, I'd be trying. We must have some right wingers in the B team. Give them a run out, see if we've got something there. But there's got to be better than Yang. I would just be writing off Europa League and saying, like, experiment in that just now. We need to win the league.
After 2 games, you'd write it off? I wouldn't.
Mate, it's after 12 games in the way we've been playing this season. It's not just on the way we've played in the Europa League. I'm looking going, the league's getting away from us. We can't score goals. We need to find a formation that works. Sticking with 4-3-3 clearly isn't it.
Do that in Europe as well. By the way, I'm disagreeing with you. That's fine. That's what it's all about. I disagree with you.
Europe, I'm like, you know what? Just care about winning this league and make sure we're at least in the Champions League qualifiers next year. For all the lovely new signings they'll have learned from and brought in time for them.
Lawrence, you and I don't often disagree. However, I'm going to throw this over to Liam. I disagree with that because I think that the worst thing you could do going into Tynecastle is to go in on the back of 2 defeats and 2 bad performances. We need the Europa League games to make the momentum get back into the swing of things for the weekend, be that Hearts this weekend or whoever follows the future Europa League games. Liam, so I'm disagreeing with Lawrence. I get what he's saying. Obviously, the priority is always going to be the league. I get that, and I agree with that. But I don't think you just shove the Europa League games to the side. I still think you try to get back on track this week with the Europa League with one eye on Tynecastle, thinking, well, let's get the momentum right. Let's get the mentality right.
See, again, if we hadn't played ourselves into a corner with the squad that we've named,
I know
there'd be the option of putting a few players who aren't regularly playing out on the midweek game to get them some game time, but also to make sure that whatever Rodgers considers to be his first team is ready to go for the Tynecastle match, because that is the most important thing right now, because we've got to win this league. You know, we have to.
Absolutely.
And Hearts are the threat now. You know, Rangers might get it together now that they've got a manager in who, by most accounts what I've been reading, seems to be a decent coach at least. He will probably get some kind of tune out of that team. I still think they'd be doing very well to finish second, right? But I don't see them winning the league. Hearts, I think, could, because they're in a good position now. If they get the result next weekend, they're going to be in a great position. And then, once we get to January, if Tony Bloom thinks he's got a chance of winning this league, he's going to throw more money at it. No question. And going the other way, if you're the Celtic board, now I am no fan of the board, as you know, and that's you know, I've written about it extensively, I've talked about it extensively on here. I think the board are primarily to blame for the state we're in right now, even though I don't like the manager's tactics at the moment. But if you're the Celtic board and you get to January and Brendan Rodgers is still the manager, but you know odds on he's out the door at the end of the season, are you going to give him the 10, 20, 30 million quid that's going to be needed to make sure we win that league?
Short-term loans.
It would not be good business logic to do that. Yep. It simply wouldn't be. It's what we would want as fans to make sure we win the league. But from a business point of view, it would be stupid.
Well, Liam, I am going to have to talk about the board, ladies and gents. I know that you've probably got a bit of fatigue when it comes to that in the comments section. But I do have a point to make that might be a slightly different angle, so it's not going to be just repeating the same old stuff. And I'm keen to bring in your thoughts as well before Lawrence and I start fencing again over the Europa League importance. But the other thing, again, Lawrence, just to throw this one at you, is, again, Alistair Johnston can play centrally, right? So see if you were playing a 3-5-2 and apparently we don't have any right wingers. Do you play Tuneke on the right-hand side? Do you play Balikwisha on the left-hand side? Because what I'm getting is also the midfield makeup is wrong. I don't think Callum McGregor is your holding midfielder. I think he's very much the ball-carrying midfield player on the left-hand side. Whoever plays on the right, maybe Engels, perhaps. Does Rio Atati retain his position in a different style? I don't know, because his form's no great. Who plays your number 6? That's a big question. And yesterday I said I did want to see Bernardo. I wanted to see Bernardo coming in and getting a run of games. Maybe Engels is your 6. Again, I'm not quite sure. That's a bit of a worry after a season and a bit with Engels and into the third season with Bernardo, where we're not sure if they could fit into that position as well. Lawrence, but what would you do with your left and your right-hand side? Would it be 2 traditional wingers, Tuneke, Balikwisha?
So on a 3-5-2,
Yeah.
so I'd have probably Balikwisha on the left, because I think you can play across it, and I'd have. Do you know what? Callum's, it's been so long, you know, he needs a rest. At some point, you've got to be going, giving Engels and Bernardo a chance. Balikwisha. You know, I think Alan said a year ago, Callum's legs are starting to go. I don't know if they are, but I tell you what, he's looking tired and he needs a rest. It looks like he's taking his toll on him here. And he seems to be sitting on top of centre-halves. You know, he's half the problem. He's taking the ball off a centre-half 5 yards away, moving it to the other centre-half, going to a centre-half back to him, and you're going, this isn't working. It's clearly not working.
No.
So I think we need a bit of freshness in the team. You know, the team's stale and devoid of energy.
Yeah.
And there's players there that can bring that to us. And we saw it against Livingston. Callum was rested, and brilliant first half against Livingston. A bit of freshness about the team. I get it's only Livingston, but you know what? We've not had many performances that have looked at fresh this season.
But they're the games. They're the games, Lawrence, that I would rather try something a bit different. I would still be taking every Europa League game as a must-win. I would be looking at games at home where you have an advantage over the side, like Livingston, historically Ross County, etc. That type of a team where you do expect to win. That's where I'm making my changes. That's where I'm, you know, I am going to be trying different things in games like that, not in the Europa League.
For me, I don't care about Europe just now. You know, we're so far off it in the league. There's a real chance we don't get it together in the league that we don't come second. You know, we're the fifth joint top scorers. I don't think there's any chance. Behind us.
I don't think there's any chance that Celtic are going to
keep playing like this and not scoring goals. Listen,
no chance.
Teams that don't score goals. You know, Hibs get it together.
Mate, the worst team I've seen in modern times was during the COVID season. We still came second. We were absolutely rotten. There's no way we're coming outside the top.
We had goals in the team. This one you're looking going, where are the goals coming from? And don't forget, more likely lose Maida in January. Liam's touching it. Who's going to join? It looks like Brendan will be off. So who are we going to bring in January? Where are the goals going to come from? No,
It's obvious where the goals are coming from. Big Ollie Burke, he's the man. He's coming in, he's getting his say.
Any striker looking at Joy will go, well, what happened with the last strikers? He's saying, oh, Shin, no, we don't play him. All right, but you play me. You know,
well, if you're going to be
agent, came in here to get in the World Cup squad.
Are you suggesting that we're going to struggle to buy players if we actually want to buy players and we've got money available? Are you suggesting that we're going to struggle to sign players? What evidence have you got of that?
I know. Mate, you know, are we confident at signing players? Listen, I know it's not as easy as we think it is, but it's certainly not as difficult as we make it look.
Correct. Yeah,
you know
I agree with that. 100%.
But we've got not just in Japan. You know, we'll have a reputation problem further afield. Players will be aware of the unrest at the club. A manager who's probably got 6 months left. Team that's struggling to score goals. You know, we're not Champions League outfit. So what level of players are we going to get that's going to want to come to us in January?
The same level, I would argue, and this is going to take me on to my next point about change, the same level of player that Ange Postecoglou and Don Mackay managed to bring into the football club in 2021, because we were hardly. I mean, we had just had a trophyless season. It was unthinkable. We went in the Champions League. We were worse off then than we are now. Yet we managed. The
Japanese markets probably for the reasons Liam's
that was part of it. Though. That was only part of it.
Now,
only part of it, mate. Matt O'Reilly, Juranovic, Giacomakis, Joe. There was Starfelt. There was a lot of players that didn't come from that region.
And you're the manager who was fresh in, who had a bit of time ahead of him. We've got a manager who will be less than 6 months left. Who's not got the best track record of playing new players, shall we say.
I'm not arguing with you, Lawrence. I'm just trying to give you a different hue to your argument.
No, listen, I think the board will obviously recognise all of this and take that difficulty on board and rise to the challenge when it comes to signing players.
Enough of that nonsense. Is this the Celtic view? Is this Pravda that we've morphed into here?
Listen, no, but it's serious trouble. But it's been a car crash we've been kind of watching unfold all summer. You know,
and before that as well, I would suggest.
Brendan's not immune from criticism. I'll never understand why Schmeichel came in for the cup final. And I thought he made his subs too early. I think he put boys on to get medals in that game. But his comments in the weekend, look, Brendan, you're a driver. You should be able to drive any car. And a lot better than you're driving this one.
Yeah, I didn't agree with those comments at all, Lawrence. It is going to take me on to my next point, but before I do that, I'm going to bring in some of the comments. So that's maybe you and I should have our own show. Maybe at some point.
Argue for 90 minutes.
Aye, easy. Probably after the watershed.
Back to the referee and
I'd need to come into the Skylark though and have a pint of Guinness with you. Right, Jerry Smith, Engel, Satati, and Bernardo midfield Thursday. What do you think of that, guys? What do you think of that?
I think a bit of energy about it, actually. Yeah, I'd go with that.
Yeah, Liam.
Aye, that would freshen things up a bit. Plus, something that I noticed at the weekend is that we are struggling with set pieces. At least with Engels, you've got somebody who can consistently take good corners.
That's another thing that, I know. It's one of the ones, Liam, where Engels got so much criticism when he was playing and actually playing well. He got so much criticism. I'm struggling to find a midfielder who's playing well at all. Bring him back in. He played 50-odd games last season.
Well, he's one of those guys I was talking about a minute ago. He's sitting on the sidelines thinking that midfield are just no doing it. How long is the manager going to keep playing them ahead of me and not even give me a chance? You know, that's where you get players get disillusioned as well.
And it spreads. It absolutely spreads in amongst the squad. A few more comments and then I'm going to give you my view on change and why we are so against it at this football club. It's become part of the culture of Celtic for some strange reason. PMC 2009, Yamada is a good player. Not had his chance. I've got to agree with you there. We've also got Chilpill 1888. Rogers has just been pure stubborn over Shin. Yamada, this stubbornness and flexibility. And I didn't like the energy after the game. I mean, the comments were bad enough once, but I just didn't get the right energy from Brendan Rodgers. Somebody who's like, right, okay, really. I mean, that should fuel your fire. Watching
did you feel anger coming from him.
Exactly.
There was no anger there, was there? There was
none.
There was just an acceptance, and you're like,
no passion.
If you're not angry with that performance of the team that you picked and prepared to go out and win, you're not angry. We've just been beat by a team at second bottom, arguably favourites for relegation.
Aye, it's the old school back in on Monday, and we're going to sort this out. I don't see any of that urgency. M. Young comes in to say the horrible realisation is that this will only get worse unless a huge level of change takes place very quickly, and I have no confidence it will. M. Young, you're speaking my language here. I was thinking about this morning, but I was trying to figure out why. I always think of the why, right? So what's the tagline today? Celtic stands on the precipice of change, but who has the stomach for it? So that's probably across a few different levels. I was thinking quite a lot about this morning. So certainly my Celtic supporting life, and I've banged on the drum about this quite a bit, and it might be the same for a lot of you tuning in. Biggest change, as a Celtic supporter that I experienced was 1994. It was a sea change. It was a takeover of the club. It was Fergus McCann. It was ousting the old board. It was going public for the first time. It was rebuilding the stadium. Massive change, right? So that was us getting out of the habit of the old board who had a stranglehold on the club for a long time, for generations. Some would argue since day dot, right? And then when was the next big change, guys? Now, chip in. I think the next big change, if you want to talk about seismic, was probably 2003. Now, what I mean by that,
I was going to say something about that big change, because I was thinking about it as well. There was a player that was undroppable in midfield, and Tommy dropped him. And he dropped McStay. Remember he dropped the Maestro?
I remember he did, Yep.
Yeah, he was shocked. Made the newspapers. Paul McStay dropped.
First time in his Celtic
career. That level with Callum, that's what Brendan needs to bite the bullet and be able to make these difficult decisions.
You've got to. I remember it as well. First time he was ever dropped in his Celtic career launch. It was a big talking point. Yeah. So the big change, the seismic change in 94. I'm going to argue the next big change was 2003, and people might be scratching their head on that one, right? So we reach a European final. It's the third European final in the club's history, and as yet still the third, and hopefully that will change in my lifetime. I'm not sure if it will. Why was that a big change? Well, it was a big change because up to that point, we had gone toe-to-toe financially as much as we possibly could. And we realised as an organisation, as a business, that we couldn't continue to do that financially. We didn't know what was going on at Rangers. I'm pretty sure people at Celtic had an inkling that all was not well. But we knew at that point we had to change our financial model or we could have gone the same way that Rangers did.
But 2001, Mon comes in, and then we really ramped up the spending and wages then, compared to what we'd previously been spending. I would say,
that caused the change.
Martin coming in was like, bang, he upped the wages. We put on a team, I know Sutton did it at the best time down at Chelsea, but still European Golden Boot winner. He had previously been a £12 million player, £6 million quid. Choices down south he didn't go to. Bill Heron, $6 million. Lenny choices.
That's what caused the 2003
spending was
absolutely huge. and the wages
the wages. And listen, a lot of them didn't come in huge wages. Martin, like Brendan, liked to reward them when they were successful, even if Mr. Law perhaps had to explain to someone who was the chief executive of Celtic Football Club, Baldy. And then he ends up not getting a game because we're paying him too much, but we're paying him regardless anyway. Remember they came in against Dundee United for that game?
I do, man of the match under Gordon
Strachan. And then dropped again.
Yeah,
I
remember it well.
Not with a manager. Well. Not an argument with a manager. We dropped the best player.
Yeah, your argument was with someone who would not be involved in in football matters. Anyway, the point is, Lawrence, you're right. That was the spending that caused the 2003 change. The change being Peter Lawwell is introduced to the football club. We have to then look at the tightening the purse strings. Martin O'Neill leaves. The big earners eventually all leave that you're talking about. John Hartson, Alan Thompson, Neil Lennon, Chris, they all leave the football club. All the big earners who had come up from the English Premiership. Magnus Hedman, one of the highest paid players at the football club at that time. All those guys go. And 2003 is a massive change. What it led to was obviously the demise, because we're chasing the prize with Rangers at this point. We're spending big money. We realise we can't keep doing it. They keep doing it. They go bust. So the next big change, and I'm going to throw this one over to Liam, was 2012. When your biggest, greatest rivals, I say greatest, no, your biggest rivals, your most bitter rivals go bust. It was at that time, right, that we had to change, Liam. We had to change in 2012.
Should we have a moment's silence, though, for obviously remember the passing?
or we could just laugh. That was the big moment for change, Liam. So 94, the takeover. 2003, let's no run this race into the ground here, and we bring in Peter Lawwell. 2012, they go bust. We must change. We didn't. What we did at that point, we didn't change. We decided we would wait for them to catch up. We would wait for them to catch up. We start just maintaining it. Ronnie Dyler comes in, all the costs go down, short-termism with the players every now and again, you maybe get one or two in that actually you can make a profit of. But we basically waited on them. And what happened was they did catch up. They caught up in 2020-21. Now, there's your next moment of change for me, Liam. There's your opportunity to reset. And they gave us a glimpse as to what it could look like. Get rid of the CEO. Get him out of the football club, right? Bring in a new CEO with a CEO's track record, Don Mackay. 72 days he lasted, 72 days. But in the 72 days, who did we buy? Who did we bring to the football club? How did things change?
Days.
72
so
days. Official.
Managers.
Probably on average, aye. On average. So that was the moment, right? So 94, big change. 2003, Lawwell comes in. 2012, Rangers go bust. 2021, the change was forced. You're talking about the 2003 change being forced by the spending of O'Neill, and you're right. The change of 2021...
But the ambition we showed in 2001, where did it take us? But after 2 years, we get a wee bit scared of that ambition.
And then we regress. And that's where I'm going with this, mate, right? So 2021, we regress. We go back to norm. We promote someone from within. We bring the CEO back as a chairman, and we flip it back to what it was before. Liam, we got a glimpse in 2021 of what it could look like if we approached this with some vision, some ambition. You looked at the players that were coming in. Incredible. I'd need to do the sums, and I'll probably do it for this week's This Is Acsom. The manager who has flipped players for the biggest profit, it's got to be Ange. I think we've made £80 million profit off of his players. Anyway, we got a glimpse into what Celtic could be as a global force. And then they bottled it, Liam. 72 days in, they got rid of the Don Mackay who wanted to rebuild the main stand, the Don Mackay that wanted to bring other events to Celtic Park, look at the footprint of the state. He wanted to do all the things that 4 years down the line, Liam, we're all talking about yet, because we've not done it. They've all been mothballed, and we continue to type, and we're stale. And I actually think those in charge, going by the meeting that I was at a few weeks back, probably don't mind losing a league title now and again to keep things interesting.
They want to create the illusion that it's all about Rangers +1.
Mm-hmm.
They want to maintain that illusion, whereas that illusion died in 2012 along with Rangers. But the thing is, I think there's a through line here, right? You go back to 2003, and you go back a bit before that, right? Go back to after we stopped the 10 in 98, right? They bring in Dick Advocat and they start spending funny money. They start signing people like the De Boers and Michael Moles, who are really good players, right? Players that ultimately they couldn't afford, but we didn't know that at the time. So then there's a 1 year experiment with John Barnes, which is a complete disaster. So Martin O'Neill comes in, and it's a relaunch, and it's a very expensive relaunch. You get to buy players like Sutton, like Neil Lennon, players that O'Neill knew from the English League and he trusted, right? But had to pay English League wages to get them. So we are essentially at that point in an arms race with the former Rangers. And it got to 2003, and our board, I think, rightly at that time said, this doesn't end well if we keep up this arms race.
Yeah.
So we've got to scale back. We can still beat them, but we've got to be smarter with our money. We can't just keep splashing it around like they are. And they continued to do it, and they died. But here's the thing. That arms race mentality still continues to this day. But it's now like, well, they're no spending any money anymore, so we don't have to either. That's kind of since 2003, it's been all about what Rangers do. We have to react to it. That's the problem. We've always been reactionary rather than proactive. And it's the same now. As they have declined, we have declined as well, because it's like, as long as we're a wee bit ahead of them, it doesn't matter. To the board's point of view. And I'm not wanting to start any fights here, but there's a significant number of Celtic fans who seem to be quite happy with that as well. And that's even more worrying, that they've come to accept that level of mediocrity.
There is definitely that element. By the way, we're all Celtic fans, and everybody supports the club the way that they choose to support it, Liam, and I respect it. But what I have seen from the last few weeks and months is there's a lot of people who just say, let's just back the team and just hope everything gets better. The world doesn't work like that. If we continue, I've seen enough to know that if we continue to approach the football club and the team in the way that we are approaching it just now, then there is the chance that we won't win this league. I take what Lawrence says on board, and I agree with it.
You said something. There's guys that say just back the team, and listen, the balls in the park, did it affect the team? I think it did. But you've got to think, is that worth it if it affects change? Because otherwise we just let car crash season go on and on. Should we just sit back and watch? For me, I wouldn't have been one throwing the balls in the pitch, but I don't blame the guys that did.
Does it affect him any more than a VAR check?
Well, listen, I think it had an effect. It's arguable whether it did or not. But at the end of the day, if it did have effect,
I just shrugged there. Sorry, I didn't mean to do the Nicholson shrug, but I did it.
But mate, it's catching. You've been in his company, so if it affects change, if this kind of action affects change, is it worth paying that price? 3 drop points, because I tell you what, the board's cost us a lot more than 3 points this season. With their strategy,
that's the point.
Their strategy's cost us the Champions League, playing in it in the group stages, cost us points without doubt in Scotland. So if we're really going to have a go at guys that threw balls onto the park, the cost that potentially had an effect on the 3 points, I think they're the least of the problems just now that we've got. And listen, for me, I've said, look, would I have done it? No, but I'm not going to blame the guys for doing it. They're trying to affect some kind of change here. And the board just, it seems, unwilling to listen or change its strategy. We all know when, like, Ida and Engels came in, we thought, we're spending some decent money on players here. Trusty as well. This is when we need to up the level we're spending. All of a sudden, we're back to targets of 2 or 3 million.
Yep.
We almost got Big on the last day, but it was taking us a week to get the deal done, and absolute garbage. You know, it was as if we went, you know what, we tried some good players who performed at Champions League level. I thought all three of them had good Champions League levels, and probably why we done so well in it. Bringing players at that level, and what have we done? One of them's now benched, or two of them's now benched, and one's sold, and we're back to £2 or £3 million players. If and when we sign a player, we left it so late, we actually ended up overpaying for. I mean, Directe, he's looked good. Has he much end product? Before he comes to us, he's got 1 goal in 7. Dalglish 1 goal in 4. Coming in to replace goals. I think we're probably overpaid for both of them a wee bit because we've left it so late.
But even that though, £5 million.
Well, yeah, we should be able to afford it. But it's
no big money if you want to be a Champions
League
club.
You've got 90 million in the bank and there's a 40 million Champions League prize pot sitting there.
It's no big money.
And you've got a league to win in Scotland.
You know, we paid that for Berkovic.
If you get him out the door.
We paid that for Berkovic in the 90s. You know, it's no big money.
But you're getting 2.5 for Yang if you let him go. A guy that's not going to contribute this season, let's be honest. You're looking at him going...
No, he's played his last game.
He gets spots every time you see him.
Yeah, but see, in terms of this, Lawrence, talking about change, the reason I went through that there was to try and get a timeline of where we have had the opportunity to make a change in the future of the football club. And what we tend to do is we regress back into our little box, into our shell, and just think, you know what, as long as we've got this wee rivalry and we can sell as many season tickets as possible. I find it strange that the club still harbours an ambition to play in some form of a British league or cup tournament, which is part of their vision, by the way, and which was quoted also in the minutes of the meeting they had with the association and the affiliation when talking about the reasons behind not rebuilding the main stand. That, call me a cynic, right? But I just think that's down to them hoping that their own stake in the club goes through the roof if we were to join some kind of a Premiership Super League. And we need to get away from that. It's old news. It ain't happening. Let's just make sure that we're a Champions League club. And by the way, say something was on the table, Liam, and I'm going to come to you on this because I always find it incredible that Japan actually has a 100-year plan. Unreal. I'm not even sure we've got a plan beyond the next transfer window, by the way. Japanese football, 100-year plan. If you think that at some point, let's say in the next 10 years, at some point you might not be playing your football in Scotland, surely you would be ready for that with regards to the infrastructure of your football club, the stadium, the quality of the squad, tapping into your global fan base, of which you are one of them. Liam, I spoke about that, you know, these inbuilt advantages. Lawrence talks a lot about the 10,000 seats. Yeah, but we've got others that we don't tap into. One of them is a global fan base. You would want to be ready to push the button if an opportunity arose and you were at the discussion table to have a breakaway. You would need to be ready. Celtic are not ready.
Look, something is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Personally, I don't think it'll be a British league, and I hope it isn't, because the EPL is just a financially doped freak show that I want Celtic as far away from as possible, because that bubble is going to pop eventually. And a lot of clubs are going to be in trouble when it does. I would much rather have a European league. And I think at the moment, if you look at, just say you were to make up like a sort of a Champions League 1 and 2, right? I would think if you had the top 20 teams, then the next 20 teams, I think Celtic could fit into that second tranche of 20 teams, like the European first division, if you like, right? You would have, you know, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus, whatever, Bayern Munich, all in that top league. But then in the second tranche, you would have teams like Celtic, like Red Star Belgrade, like Bruges, like possibly Midtjylland, you know, teams from Scandinavia, maybe some of the Dutch and Portuguese teams. I think it would make for a really, really interesting competition. And that, for me, is where the future is. It's no in England, because English fans don't want us. Let's be honest as well, right? We don't like English football, and most of English football doesn't like us either. They lump us together with Rangers, and they think we don't want that in our league, and also most of the English folk you speak to, if they have a sympathy either way, it's usually for Rangers. It's not for us. So
well, it's a mindset, isn't it?
I think that's a dead end. I think it's an absolute dead end. And as I say, even if the opportunity was there to chase it, I don't think we should, because I think it's the wrong decision.
Listen, you don't know what the future's going to lie in. I'd agree. I prefer European League over English League. But what you can do is what you alluded to with Dominic Mackay. You can create your own opportunities in your own future. Listen, Dermot Desmond's a businessman, a genius, if we're to listen to some out there.
I don't
What
listen.
kind of business plan's been put in front of him? What kind of challenging business plan has someone went down and said, look, Dermot, you're making decent money here. Here's what we could do. Rebuild the main stand, put the hotel, the museum in. Here's what happens when we invest. Here's your return on investment. Do we have people on the board or a CEO that's capable of challenging self-made billionaire like Dermot Desmond?
No, that's the problem. Because what happens, right?
But we need to create our own opportunity. Listen, did you go to the U2 gigs at Celtic Park?
I went to one of them.
Yeah, great. You know, and obviously, this new pitch will be able to go back to doing that. Not seen that. Listen, I know Liam still plays there now and again. It's not, and nothing bad on Liam McGrandles. He's not quite UT at Celtic Park.
But even that, though, Lawrence, I spoke to Liam about that, and the sound system is so bad. So there's such a delay that when you're trying to sound, even they can't even get that right. You know,
sure. There's loads of improvements you could do. You look at that ground, and honestly, I think you should get Tom Grant back on and say, look, Tom, what was it that you alluded to? There was a second phase. What was it? What was the second phase? What was the plan? How were you going to improve it? Because look, I know they tried the Champions Club. I think they get Smoky Trotters in for one of the bars. They now get Kerrydale Suite, but you're thinking the Sports Cafe. I know Ken Ross, Big Davy McLaughlin do well there as tour guides, but there's got to be more than they can do there.
Far more.
But, you know, loads of opportunity, but it just seems to be set and just left. I mean, Flag Day and the banners outside aren't even completed. You know, it's embarrassing. You've got a marquee for Champions League games. But what must other visiting clubs think is in the media? Your media area is not big enough. We've got to put a marquee out there. Well, you own the space. Surely there's something you could do.
Well, see the thing, right? I'm just going to bring this up, guys, right? Because Jared and I had a right good discussion about this the other day. I'm going to share my screen here for a wee moment. You have probably all done this, right? But obviously we're working on the CGI vision of Celtic Park, what it could look like, right? So see when you look at right, so let's have a look at the footprint of Celtic Park. You can see the stadium. Can you see my cursor, by the way, moving, guys?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So you've got the stadium here, and you've got the wee car park that used to be the school here. There's your Celtic Way, right, and your statues, right? Look at the space here, right? So there's your superstore, but look at the space it takes up, and look at the space your ticket office takes up. Have they never heard about 2 or 3 tiers, no? And then all this, even the state of the tarmac. Look at all this dead space. Look at all this dead space. We own it all, exactly. Look at all this dead space here behind the Real McCoy pubs and all that. See all that there? All that's the Lisbon Lions car park. Imagine naming it that. That's a disgrace to the legacy of the Lions. It's cheap tarmac, right? Look at all this. This is all dead space, right? You've got the Jane Field Street that obviously runs under that particular stand. And then more dead space up here as well. Look at that. More dead space all the way up here. I'd need to confirm this wee bit of land here if we own that. That's a butter company here. That's
Creamery won't sell. Celtic have tried to buy it for ages.
This bit here, because obviously
Creamery, the butter company.
Yeah, but the one here, Lawrence,
I think that's Celtic now.
That's Celtic, right? Yeah, so you've got all that, all this area here, massive area, right, for redevelopment. How tired does that look? I mean, that looks terrible. That is a concrete graveyard in and around Celtic Park. Look at the size of that footprint. That should all be up to the standard of the Celtic way. You should have your superstore, your ticket office, a museum, a hotel. You should have multi-tier car parks so that all the space that you think you need, put it in one space, put it there. There's your space there. There's your car parks. It's not hard, right? And it's just showing you if you had a wee bit of ambition, Lawrence, and we're going to do it through CGI. We're going to create the vision. And a few people in the comments have said, what's the point in that? The club will no listen. I get it. I get that the club doesn't listen. But if you create a vision, rather than just talk about it on the bulletin, you put it out there, far more Celtic fans will see that. Far more Celtic fans will talk about it. Nobody was talking about the stadium 2 or 3 years ago. No one. Everybody's talking about it now, right? It's the same way, success masking 1,000 deficiencies. We're at a situation at the moment where we're still the reigning champions. We won the double last year with a good run in Champions League. We are at risk of not winning the league. And I agree with you, Lawrence. I don't think that it's wrong to say that. We need to step it up. It can't just be, let's just hope everything comes to fruition. Now, Robbie, final comment of the day. We're well over the 1 hour. We keep stating Europa League squad. With the teams in the Conference League, we would get into the last 16 of that. Europe is a dead rubber already. Well, I think what you need to do is you need to, if you want to focus on the league, you need to use the Europa League games to maintain your momentum. So we can't go in, regardless of what the competition is, we can't go into a European game and just think it's fine, it's a dead rubber. We need to maintain a winning bounce, the mentality, the momentum to move into the big game at the weekend. Now, listen, Lawrence and I disagree on many things. We never fall out. It's the same with everybody in the comments section. Let's talk, let's have a disagreement, let's debate, and let's keep the fires burning until change happens. We've got an AGM coming up. Will there be big announcements in relation to the future of some of the people on the board?
Have they been able to name the date yet?
Saw that today. It's already announced by this time in October. It hasn't been, obviously, yet, but as soon as it has been, there's a couple of resolutions that the trust are going to put forward as well. Thank you, every single...
On the trust, mate, and the resolutions, I think they needed 30 more shareholders to come forward.
They got them
yet.
They got them.
Did they get them? Cool.
They got them, yeah. Yeah, they got them last night. We are going to be in conversation with a number of Celts from the past. Chris Sutton at Greenock. We also have Scott Brown in Glasgow, followed by Paul Elliott.
Mate, Paul Elliott.
That's Glasgow.
Immense, isn't it?
Oh, my word. One of my favourites.
I'll go in and see him if he remembers me from Newcastle.
I don't want to know anymore. I don't want it. That's for our bit.
One thing I will say about Paul Elliott, ask him to tell you the Anton Rogan story, right? I'm not going to repeat it on air. Ask him to tell you the Anton Rogan story.
I dread to think. Listen, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll be back tomorrow. So please join us then. Give us a big thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you want to come and see some of the old Celtic legends, the links are under the video. Thanks, Lawrence, Liam, and briefly Ian, for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind.